Greetings and welcome to another Tomorrow's World webcast. My name is Wallace Smith, and it's good to have you here and be in the studio addressing you on this particular topic. The title fascinated me. It's a report from back in February 3rd, in this case, February 3rd. It's a title, actually, I got this from the website of a New Mexico station, KRWG, but actually they themselves got it from NPR. The title says this: babies with genes from 3 people could be ethical, panel says. Well, thank you, panel. Actually, then it may not actually be as alarming as the headline says. In other ways, it actually may be just as alarming. They're not necessarily talking about 3 people where a child would have visual features and all the rest from 3 different parents, but they are talking about children that would have genetic material in their body from 3 parents, mainly due to having mitochondria from someone completely different, which is a certain organelle in the cell that has its own DNA. Now, let me read just a little bit from the article. It begins asking the question: would it be ethical for scientists to try to create babies that have genetic material from 3 different people? An influential panel of experts has concluded the answer could be yes. The 12-member panel, assembled by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, released a 164-page report Wednesday outlining a plan for how scientists could ethically pursue the controversial research. It says that they want to make sure that it's safe and all the rest. It says then researchers should initially try to make only male babies because they would be incapable of passing their unusual amalgamation of DNA on to future generations. Their goal is to help women have healthy babies even though they come from families plagued by genetic disorders. What they're addressing here again is the genetic material inside mitochondria, which only comes from the mother. And so consequently, if it were only male babies, then theoretically, that material would not be passed on. But even here, they're talking about starting with male babies. In fact, let me continue later in the article. It says, critics of the research, meanwhile, say the number of women who could benefit from the experiments is so small that it's not worth crossing a line that's long been considered off limits, making genetic changes that could be passed down for generations. It has a quote here from Marcy Danovsky. She's executive director of the Center for Genetics and Society. It's a watchdog group in California. She says the possibility of what you could call mission creep is very real. People are talking about going forward not just with this, but with the kind of genetic engineering that will produce outright genetically modified human beings. She says later that once these things happen, I think you get into a situation where some people are genetically enhanced and other people are the regular old variety of human being. And I don't think that's a world we want to live in. I don't want to go into detail about this for the sake of our webcast. There's a lot we could go into, but I do hope that at least some of our viewers out there are horrified by the thoughts and what they're hearing. It seems like we have no real sense of where a line should be drawn anymore whatsoever. They're drawing lines, and you see the ethicists deciding on these lines, well, if we do this, or well, if we do that. But when you really dive down into those lines, they're fuzzy lines. They're lines that could be moved over time. And when you think of mankind as nothing more than simply another animal like all other animals, then why not? Why not experiment? Why not do whatever we want? Why not re-engineer ourselves? These things seem so good on the outside. Anytime there's a major step like this, who's going to argue it in such a way as to say, you know, I have an idea. I want to create a master race of human beings. I want to give parents the ability to make their kids super strong. Hey, let's give a kid with 4 arms if we want. Let's just do whatever we want. No one's going to say that, and no one, I hope, truly wants that. Steps like this are always motivated, I'll say usually motivated, by good desires. But where do we run up against a boundary that tells us our reach is too far? That there are some things, there are true lines we just don't want to cross. You know, what we actually see in cases like this is truly the opposite of what we're going to see in tomorrow's world when Jesus Christ returns and establishes His kingdom. Now, it's not the opposite in the sense that there's care for children and care for families and a desire for healthy people. It's not that. But nowhere have I read of any ethical panel here asking what God thinks, asking what our Creator thinks, which should be the foundation of every moral and ethical decision. The future, the world tomorrow, will be governed in a different way. It says in Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 3, "Many people shall come and say, 'Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us His ways, and we shall walk in His paths.'" We are far from that today. And the steps we see today, I fear, are leading to a future that we're going to find quite surprisingly terrible. That's it for this webcast. I hope you'll check out everything else we have to offer at tomorrowsworld.org.